Won't get fooled again. Bjorn Snyder, March 8, 2026. Meet the new year 2026 same as the old year 2022. The Who promised we won't get fooled again. Markets had other ideas. In 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, oil ripped, and the Fed was caught flat-footed by inflation it called transitory, until it wasn't. In 2026, the script is disturbingly familiar: a geopolitical shock, an oil spike, and a Fed that can't move. The weapon this time isn't tanks. It's an insurance policy. Different conflict, same trap. Pete Townsend wrote the song. Iran read the playbook. The actuaries closed the strait, not the missiles. The most underappreciated dynamic of this Iran-US crisis is that the Strait of Hormuz was effectively closed not by missiles, but by actuaries. When the P&I clubs, the syndicates that collectively insure the vast majority of the world's ocean-going tonnage, pulled their war risk coverage within 72 hours of the initial strikes, vessel movements fell roughly 90% from the historical average of about 138 transits per day. No mines required. 7-day rolling tanker crossings in the Strait of Hormuz plummeting. $20 billion versus $352 billion. The Trump administration recognized the problem quickly and ordered the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation (DFC) to insure losses up to approximately $20 billion on a rolling basis. It's a valiant effort, but the math doesn't math. J.P. Morgan energy analysts estimate the Gulf's current tanker fleet requires roughly $352 billion in total insurance coverage. The DFC's $20 billion facility is meaningful as a confidence signal but not a solution at scale. Social truth readers in search of an affirming lifeline here, effective immediately. The insurance industry is saying, we'll get back to you. Iran doesn't need to win the war. It just needs to win the inflation trade. By keeping Hormuz functionally shut, Tehran can accomplish through economics what it cannot through conventional warfare: sustained upward pressure on oil prices that feeds directly into U.S. inflation. Ellen Zentner at Morgan Stanley put it plainly: the Fed is now between a rock and a hard place. Labor market weakness would normally support cuts, but the risk that oil-driven inflation resurges may compel the Fed to stay on the sidelines. That's the trap. A weak consumer can't absorb $4 plus gasoline, and the Fed can't easily cut into a supply shock without a credibility problem. Iran doesn't need to win militarily, it just needs to keep the strait closed long enough for inflation to do the work. History is on the bulls' side. The strait is on the bears. Don't sleep on the historical precedent, though it cuts both ways. BlackRock's ISG notes that across 21 U.S. airstrike campaigns in MENA over the past 4 decades, the S&P was higher 95% of the time 8 weeks later. But the exception, the one that matters right now, is when energy flows are materially interrupted. That's precisely where we are. The bulls have history on their side. The bears have the strait. Stagflation fears are back on the table. U.S. stocks ended the week solidly lower, with cyclicals bearing the brunt of the selling as the NFP reactivated stagflation fears already simmering from the Hormuz closure. The VIX continued its reset higher alongside oil, reflecting a market repricing both growth risk and geopolitical tail risk simultaneously. Friday's payroll report added fuel to that fire. Non-farm payrolls fell 92,000 in February against an estimate of plus 50,000, marking the third time in 5 months that payrolls declined, with unemployment edging up to 4.4%. Revisions made it worse. December was cut from plus 50,000 to 17,000, meaning 2025 was the first year to record 5 months of labor contractions since 2010. Wages came in hot at plus 0.4% month over month, which in isolation would already be a Fed headache. What the rotation is telling you: sector rotation told the cleaner story this week. Software rebounded on short covering, oil outperformed for obvious reasons, while memory, U.S. metals, and homebuilders were the notable laggards, with the latter two particularly sensitive to a rates higher for longer outcome. Until there's clarity on Hormuz, that tension isn't going anywhere. Futures markets are now pricing the first cut for July. Whether the strait reopens before the end of the month may matter more to that timeline than any upcoming data print. The through line in the end: this is a market being asked to price 3 moving parts at once: a geopolitical conflict, an insurance market seizure, and a softening economy. Each has its own timeline, and none of them are obviously in sync. The through line is simple: Until oil flows freely again, nothing else is fully resolved. Thanks for reading the postmortem. If you know others who want a concise weekly what's up in the markets, feel free to share it. Subscribe to the postmortem by Bjorn Snyder Substack.